Summer went by way too quickly. School's in a couple of days, and our sleep schedules, they're out the window. However, some of you guys are going to be studying geometry this year, and you're probably wondering, how is it? What's it like? Don't worry about it, guys. Today, we're going to be looking at the basics of geometry. Let's get started. Now, if you're taking geometry, most likely you're thinking about shapes. Trust me, it is not just shapes. You're going to be looking at different attributes of shapes, such as their sizes, such as, their distance between each other, points, angles, planes, lines, whatever you could think of with a shape. Trust me, it is way deeper than it seems. But today we're going to be looking at something significant. It's called conditional statements. What are they? All right, now before we go any further, we need to identify a couple of terms, P and Q. P is going to represent our hypothesis, while Q is going to represent the conclusion. So in a conditional statement, you would first have your if, the hypothesis, then the conclusion. So for the sake of today's video, we're going to be sticking with the example, if it's winter, then it's cold. That is going to be our conditional statement. A conditional statement is basically a statement that joins two events together under a condition. So it's normally written in the format if P, then Q, or if A, then B. So you could take the example, if it's winter time, then it will be colder. Or if it's summertime, then it will be hotter. Alright guys, so a conditional statement is much deeper than it seems. You're gonna have a converse, an inverse, and a contrapositive, and others. Now, other statements, including the conditional statement, are gonna lay a pretty good foundation for a big topic in geometry called proofs. Now, we won't be talking too much about proofs in this video, which is why I would kindly urge you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when we do release a video on proofs, you'll get notified. Alright, so guys, apart from a conditional statement, you're also gonna have three other statements, a converse, a contrapositive, and an inverse. Now, you're gonna need to know these types of statements before you can go into the proofs. Trust me, it's not that dramatic. It's not that serious at all, guys. Now, the converse statement is if Q, then P. So if you see your conditional statement, you'll notice that a converse and a conditional are just switched around. So their hypothesis and conclusion, are going to be switched around. So with your conditional statement, you're going to have your if, your hypothesis, then your conclusion. However, with the converse, you're going to have if, your conclusion, then your hypothesis. So like the example we mentioned before, for a conditional statement, if it's winter time, then it will be cold. For a converse statement is, if it's cold, then it's winter time. Now let's take a look at the inverse. So here you can see the inverse says, if not P, then it's not Q. So the only difference between an inverse and a conditional is the not. That means it's negated. So if P, then Q is our conditional, but our inverse is if not P, then it's not Q. So going back to the example, our conditional statement was, if it's winter time, then it's cold. But our inverse would say, if it's not winter time, then it's not cold. Last but not least, let's take a look at the contrapositive. The contrapositive is, if not Q, then it's not P. Our conditional, as you remember, is if P, then Q. But our contrapositive, here's what happened. They went ahead and switched the P and Q, and then they negated both of them. Let me explain. So remember, we're in a conditional statement, we're starting off with the P. However, in a contrapositive, you're starting off with the Q. And not only that, but now it's negated to both of them. So both the P and the Q, or should I say the hypothesis and the conclusion, are switched around and negated. So concerning our example, for our conditional statement, we would say, if it's winter, then it's cold. However, our contrapositive would say, if it's not cold, then it's not winter. A good way to remember this is by looking at the word contrapositive. It's a pretty long word, so that should remind you that there are a lot of steps involved in finding out the if-then statement for a contrapositive. Remember, you switch it, then you negate it. Everything else is a breeze. Alright, so let's review. So here we have our conditional statement, converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So let's look at each if-then statement. Here we have for a conditional statement, if P, then Q. If our hypothesis, then our conclusion. If it's winter, then it's cold. Our converse, if Q, then P. So what happened here is they switched it around. So if our conclusion, then our hypothesis. So if it's cold, then it's winter. Our inverse is our negated P and our negated Q. So all that happened is that now everything is negated. So it's not switched around, but rather it's negated. So if not our hypothesis, then not our conclusion. So if it's not winter, then it's not cold. And finally, our contrapositive. If not Q, then not P. Or if not our conclusion, then not our hypothesis. So what happened here is that they were both switched around, and not only that, but they were negated. So if it's not cold, then it's not winter. Now, if you can remember all of these, you'll be ready for the proofs. Bro, can we stop putting the sound? And hey, if you're still feeling a bit nervous, don't forget to check out these videos right here, as they will help a lot with shedding some light on what geometry will look like in this upcoming school year. And hey, don't forget to subscribe.